Hi, I'm Tim from Marathon Mates. This week we are joined by Michael Walton to discuss one of our favourite running events, the Australian Outback Marathon at Yulara. Michael is going to tell us all about the event and why it's so much more than a race. I can't wait to hear all about it. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the Flying RuNR, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Welcome back to the Flying RuNR. I'm Tim, and I'm joined on this episode by Tara and Tony, as well as our very special guest, Michael Walton from the Australian Outback Marathon. Michael has kindly agreed to join the Marathon Mates for this episode, where we'll take a very close-up look at the Australian Outback Marathon, which has just been held at Yulara. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, Tim. Hi, Tara. How you going, Tony? Very nice to be with you.
Yes, welcome, Tony. Welcome, Michael. And just for a way of introduction and a bit further information, Michael is the race director of the Australian Outback Marathon and is the other half of the Travelling Fit team. If you recall, we interviewed the founder of Travelling Fit, Michael Walton, way back on episode 1. And the Australian Outback is definitely one of our favourite events, and I can't wait for everyone here to hear all about it at this year's event that's just been run and done. But first of all, how's everyone been? Tony, Tara, how's your week's been? And Michael, welcome.
Well, Tim, I've got to say, I was thinking about one of the comments that Murray Ma made during our interview with her, where she said, tough times are a positive thing, and any sort of challenges that come up against us is a positive thing. And I really had to think about that on Saturday. We did our long run on Saturday, and Sharon power walked for, I think, 21K, and I ran for 22. But around the 16K mark, an old footy injury flared up in my knee. And it was Murray Ma's words of advice going in, Tony, tough times are a positive thing and they make us stronger. So a little bit of a hiccup for me at the moment. I'm going to do a week of power walking just to keep going and keep time on the legs. But the knees got a little bit of soreness in it. But we'll get through it.
Yeah, got to hang in there. Berlin's not that far away, so you've got to prevent injury and maintain it as best you can. Tara?
Yeah, well, we did park run as we always do every Saturday morning. We didn't do our long run this weekend only because we've got Sunny Coast half marathon this weekend with Patrick. So he's decided, as some of you may know, to just run his second half marathon with us. So we're sort of like on a half a taper. It's a really weird position to be in because we're sort of tapering, but we're leading into a marathon. So I don't know really how that works, but we just did 10Ks. We did a 5K pre-run before parkrun, and then we did parkrun at New Farm Parkrun, and we seen Aisha, who's another Travelling Fit member there, which is fantastic. And we saw a lady by the name of Claudia Stevenson. Claudia is actually a blind runner from Melbourne. So we know her through our Team Alice page, and we caught up with her because she wanted to catch up with us. So we went to New Farm just to see her as well. So it was really good.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Voice to the name, right? Yeah. So it was quite interesting. It's good to see him. And Michael, have you been doing any running in the last week?
I haven't been doing a lot of running, guys. I'm fobbing myself off here. I actually had surgery on my foot in February, so I'm just coming back from an injury. So I'm hopefully back on my feet mid-August, according to the surgeon. So yeah, I'm doing a fair bit of rowing, which is good. So I'm still keeping myself fit, but I'm off my feet at the moment.
Is there lots of rowing or sculling?
Let's go with rowing for now. Nice play on words there.
I guess for us, the other big news for Team Ellis is we finally got out of WA, Western Australia, on Run Down Under. So for those who don't know, Run Down Under is a virtual run around the world. It's actually called Run the World. And we finally, after I don't know how many years we've been stuffing around in WA, it's a fair old run. You literally run from up the top at Kununurra all the way around the WA coastline, right round up to the Nullarbor on the southern section there.
So a long way around.
It is a long way.
Please be aware that this is a virtual run. This is not, we have travelled to WA and done this run either, by the way. So, yes, we will talk a bit more about Run the World or Run Down Under in a different episode. But yeah. Tony's part of it too, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I joined this year and I think I've only just hit the Queensland border. So I haven't even thought about getting to WA yet. So.
All I can say is it's a very long slog, and to finally get out there, we're now in the middle of nowhere on the Nullarbor. So,
right.
Yeah. So, all right. So it looks like we've all been a little bit busy, but I guess the next segment we get into is the marathon news. So I'm going to hand it over to Tara with some of the marathon news. So what's been happening this week in the world of marathoning?
Well, the good thing is that you haven't given me any of those difficult names to pronounce this week, so thank you very much, Tim. We'll talk about the Canberra Marathon because that's just opened up the entries for next year. They've got a marathon, the half, the 10K, the 5.4K, and a 2K kids run distance. This is going to be on the 7th of April 2024, about a week before Boston Marathon. So the event is now included as an Abbott Major Age Group World Ranking event, which is great news for this event because it will help attract more runners as well. It's a great looking course. It starts and finishes at the front of Old Parliament House and includes a run around parts of Lake Burley Griffin and other scenic areas of Canberra, so that's really good.
Haven't done Canberra yet. Have you done it, Tony or Michael? Have you been and seen it?
Yeah, it was. I did it. When I had more hair. Quite a few years ago. I did Canberra and absolutely loved it. I'm a very slow back of the pack plodder, best of times, but I did a 4:34 around Canberra, which was my fastest ever marathon, and absolutely loved it.
Yeah. I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah, I'd never really given it a second thought, to be honest, but it sounds like I can imagine that the weather would be nice. It'd be ideal running weather, and it sounds like a pretty scenic run. So it's certainly something that you brought to my attention this week, but I'll wait a couple of years. I'll get the 6 stars out of the way, and then I'll start looking at these other ones.
That's it. And Tara, what else is happening?
So Cape Town Marathon, that's one of those 3 events that are looking to be a world majors to get into for the 7th star. That's going to be on the 14th, 15th of October this year. At the end of June, they had about 7,500 entries. They're the same as Sydney. They still need the 15,000 finishes. So I don't know how many they actually have because they haven't been putting up on social media what their numbers are now. I do know that they gave away 2,000 free entries to help them get to that 15,000 entries. And they've just put out a new route that they're running. So it looks like it's a really good course. It's flatter, only has 90 metres of elevation over the whole thing, so it should be much faster. I think the total elevation gain is now only about 170. Sorry, it's got 90 metres less, so it's only about 179 metres of elevation now. But they should get some really decent runners out of that, like being close to the African continent. They should be nice and easy for the other runners to travel to that, or make it easier, hopefully. And what else been happening? Oh, Cameron Avery. Can't forget Cameron. He won the national cross-country championships for New Zealand, running the 10K 31 minutes and 1 second in Taupo. So, hey, if I could do a 5K at that time, I'd be pretty
Oh,
10K cross country in 31 minutes is pretty quick.
Yeah,
very quick. Yeah,
well done. Take photos.
I wonder if he was doing his Swish. Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Well done, Swoosh.
Yeah, so that's bloody good news for Cameron to keep going and get that sort of a result. Because as we saw last week, Rob De Castella was an excellent cross country runner and converted across into marathons.
Yeah,
so,
and we all know how that went.
Yeah. Yes.
I didn't start at cross country. That's my problem. So, Michael, what's the big event for you guys that is coming up?
I've got we've got a couple. We've obviously got Boston is very heavily on our horizon at the moment because we normally work 6 to 9 months at least in advance of the majors because of the demand. We've got Madoc's coming up in 3 weeks, which will be over 4. Then obviously, as you guys know, we've got Berlin coming up at the end of September. So it's all what's the word? Pedal to the metal, I believe. I tried to say that wrong, so I had to stop and think about that. But yeah, all systems go at the moment for us. It's great.
So the Marathon de Madoc, that's the one with the wine at the drink stations, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's I can't remember, something like 24 drink stations that they have along the way, and the big feature on most of the drink stations is some of them actually have sports drinks and water.
And you get to dress up for that one as well.
It's something like 80% of the field, or more than 80% of the field, dress up. Is gastronomy is the theme this year, so we're expecting quite a lot of chefs and waitresses to be running. That's certainly what I'd be doing. It's one of those really funny things as well, because people dress up in all sorts of weird and wonderful costumes, and then they get started and suddenly realize that they've got to run in them. And it's a 6.5 hour cutoff, and as you would imagine, there's wine on all of the drink stations. You do tend to get quite a lot of people finishing in that last half an hour. They've either misjudged it or they've really judged it well, one or the other. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And I'd imagine the GPS signal on Strava must be very interesting as well, whether they do a little bit of a zigzag as they go. And
I'm pretty certain it's supposed to be a straight line through the vineyards, but I'm certain it's not when you look at it.
All I can say is that I hope that there's lots of portaloos along the way for toilet stops with that amount of wine.
Again, so we run a race that's out in the middle of the desert. So when you're out and about, I think you use the toilets that are available in whatever form they come.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The world's just toilet.
Yeah. There's no polite way, as we all know. We all run. There's no polite way of talking about toilets when you're running. You've got to go. You got to go. So
no off limits for that side of things.
Yeah.
And is it red wine or white wine, or is it a mixture of both that you can choose?
Yeah, it's a mixture. Yeah, because you're going through lots of different vineyards.
Yep.
So you get red, you get white, you get some rosé, you even get champagne on a couple of them. It really depends on the vineyard that you're going through and what their particular speciality is. I remember you're in Bordeaux, so Bordeaux is famous for its whites and specifically famous for its reds.
Yeah. No, it sounds like a fantastic event, and I guess if people want to know more about it, obviously this year's booked out, but next year...
Yeah, this year's booked out, yeah.
But next year you can look at it via travellingfit.com on the internet there, and
that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, and we'll be taking deposits for next year. Obviously, we tend not to take deposits until this year's race is run. But yeah, that'll be coming out next year, and it's so much fun.
Oh, that's one on Team Alice's radar for sure. Not that I like a drink or two, but
it's not just the drink either. It really is. It's the camaraderie. It's the dressing up. It's the food on the drink stations. You get everything you can think of that's French. You get bread and you get cheese, and you might get some snails if you're lucky. You get little bits of cold meats and all of that sort of stuff. So, as you said earlier, Tara, it really is about pacing yourself and getting yourself.
Actually finishing the 6.5 hour time frame for this one. So
again, that's really weird. So you've always got people who run very quickly. Always in every race, there's always people trying to get to the end as fast as they can. This isn't that race. This is the race where people wander along quite slowly. They enjoy the drink stations. It's a big party atmosphere. There's a lot of bands going, and the biggest group of people tends to come in that last half an hour.
Yeah.
So it was just huge numbers. And there's always one or two people who stagger in just behind the sweeper, desperately trying to get over the line. And they've had a really, really good race, but they don't get their medal.
Well, that sounds awesome. So Marathon de Modoc, that's the one we're going to have to look
Keep
at.
on our radar. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. That's the marathon news this week. But now we're going to jump into the reason why we're all here. We're here to talk about the Australian Outback Marathon. It's one of our favourite events. It's an iconic event here in Australia. We've all been lucky. We've been there. We've done it. And we talk about it as an event. It's not just a race. It's an event. And Michael will talk a little bit more about that shortly. The race itself, it's held on the last Saturday in July at Yulara, which is a town pretty much smack bang in the middle of nowhere in Australia. The only thing going for it is there's a giant rock a couple of kilometres away from it, which is probably a pretty famous one that's in the background there on Michael's photo for those who can see us online. But it's Uluru, or formerly known as Ayers Rock, and not far away is the Olgas or Katajuda as well. We love that. But before we start talking about the Australian Outback Marathon, Michael, we always ask our guests a couple of general running questions or intro questions. So
Okay.
We'll kick it off first with why did you get into running and why?
Why did I get into running? So as you know, Mara is my wife.
Yes.
When we very first met, I didn't do, well, anything really. And I think that my head got bigger than my feet. So I just tried to be all impressive and went for a run, tried to do the City to Surf, and suddenly realized, that one of us in the family is a really good runner and the other one's called Michael. But I got hooked. So we did the City to Surf 1 year, and then I did the Sydney Half Marathon another year, and just snowballed from there. Yeah. So I had done no running till I was in my early 30s at all. I'd never run.
Yeah.
So, but you finish your first race, and once you do the first one, you swear you'll never run again, right up until the point where you enter the next one.
Yeah.
I think I've quoted that to you many times after a marathon, actually.
Yeah. I'm never doing it again, he
back.
says at the start line. Yeah. So,
All right,
so nothing more impressive. I was trying to impress my wife. Really, I don't know if it worked, but she got me hooked on running. I really enjoy it. Yeah.
Very good.
All right, Tony.
Yeah, we all have our favourite events, Michael. We have fond memories of some, but we all seem to be able to say this one has been my favourite. So what's been your favourite?
I get asked this a lot, as you can imagine. That I have two answers. The politically correct answer is my favourite race is any one that I finish. I've never not finished, so I've been very, very lucky. I've never had to DNF. The marathon that I ran that I think I had the best time in. Mama and I did the Great Tibetan Marathon, which is up on far north India in the Tibetan Plateau. It's about 4 kilometers up.
Oh, nice.
And if I'm brutally honest, I'm not one that trains a whole heap, but I really trained for that race. I really trained. I did the right dietary things. I had all the right food. I wasn't drinking. I was very well hydrated. We went up there and we spent enough time acclimatizing. And I still did 5 hours in the race, or 5 hours and 10 minutes, I think. But I felt fantastic all the way through. We were running down the Indus Valley, the most beautiful, beautiful place. We went camping for a few days when we were up there. So the whole experience of being up there was just amazing, and I would love to go back.
Yeah, it's amazing when you're running in great terrain, and it just puts you in a really good, happy space. And it doesn't really matter about the time; it's the memories that's created.
Yeah, I've never worried about the time. They tell me that I would have been at least an hour faster if I'd been running at sea level, but I didn't care. It didn't matter. Just the people were just amazing. I love the food. As I say, we went camping to a place called the Mountains of the Moon, which looks like you're on the moon. I had a bath in an icy river, which was physically one of the coldest things I've ever done. And Yeah, it wasn't. There was no part of my body that thanked me for it, but at least I did it. So I have nothing but fond memories of that particular event. It was just a great place to visit.
Sounds perfect. Yeah.
So I guess we've asked Marimar the same question. How do you motivate yourself when things get tough? Obviously, you're coming back from an injury at the moment.
Yeah.
But you must have some sort of way of going, I can't do this anymore, but then you do it. How do you force yourself to do that?
I'm very lucky because I have Marimar to do that for me. You know, without being flippant about it, I've got somebody in the family who's a very good runner, right, who motivates me simply because she's so good at it. And Marimar doesn't tend to get injured, and I don't train anything like enough, so I do. But what keeps me going is, I think I've said it before, it's the thrill of finishing. It's never usually the thrill of starting a race, to be honest with you. And everybody has moments, doesn't matter how long the race is, you all hit the wall, and that wall can be 500 meters in, it can be 25 kilometers in, everybody hits it at some point. But the feeling of finishing an event, that going over a finishing line, irrespective of the distance, that feeling never leaves you. And you do it once, it's like a drug. You just want to do it again. So I think to myself, okay, enter something, get some skin in the game, because you know you're going to get that feeling again. Doesn't matter how far the race is.
Yeah.
And I guess there's a lot worse things to be addicted to than running and that feeling of crossing the finishing line. So
that's right.
That's a good addiction to have, isn't it?
Yeah. And if I can't run, the other thing that gets me going, if I can't run, I stand there and watch other people finish. That's almost as good.
Yes. Absolutely.
I agree. That inspirational story stuff that you hear and see people who have challenged themselves, push their body to somewhere they've never been before, and then see them finish. I get more out of that sometimes than I do out of my own achievements. So it's pretty good. Hey, you mentioned you've got an injury at the moment, and that you can come back into running in the next little while.
Yep.
What are you training for? What are your thoughts on next? What's your next sort of race that you're looking at?
So, as I mentioned, if I don't have a goal, I basically don't do anything. I watch other people, and I'm like a lurker in the background. I really enjoy watching other people run. So I, in a moment of utter madness, decided that I was going to go and sign up and do the Dopey Challenge at Disney. So that's coming.
You've been to numerous Dopies, but you've never done the full Dopey Challenge. Is that right?
I've never done the full Dopey. I've done the 5 before. I've done the 10 before. I've done the half before, but I've never actually done all 4 races in 4 days. Wow. So it's going to be quite a challenge. I don't know whether I'll up for it. I'm up for it, but ask me in January. I'll let you know.
If I can do it, Michael, you can do it. So
so I'll use you as my inspiration, Tara.
Absolutely. When you get to the 35 Ks in the marathon, you just go, oh my god.
Yeah, it's we've got a reasonable size group going over. So we're taking a big group of people over, and I thought, well, you know what? We've done this so many times, and we've been there so many times. It's about time that I had a go. So that's what's next.
Well
good on
done.
you. Yeah, good on you.
They just did the medal reveal overnight, actually.
Yes,
for the Dopey Challenge. So the medal for this year or for January have just been released for the Dopey.
Yeah, and they're the size of a dinner plate, which is awesome.
Yes.
For those that don't know, the medals are awesome. You do 4 events, you get 6 medals, and they're all like the 5K medal is the size of my hand, sort of thing. Yeah. And then they only get bigger and more fancier from there. So. Oh well, we'll be actively following you and keeping an eye out for you on that journey.
Oh well, thank you. Yeah, I'm a bit nervous about it, but
you sign up through with Traveling Fit, and you'll have the best time ever.
Oh, thank you. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right, so the Outback Marathon. I'll hand it over to you, Tony.
Yeah, the Outback Marathon, very fond memories of 2022, less fond memories for myself, 2021. But let's first talk about the origin. How did the event come to be, and why did you create it, and why at Yulara?
Okay, so let's go quite a long way backwards if we could. And again, so Marimar and I we've been to a few adventure marathons around the world that were like holidays, basically. As you guys know, you go on a holiday and you incorporate a run. We've been on a few of those before, but there was no concept like that in Australia at all. Everything was you'd turn up on a Sunday and you'd run your race and you'd go home. There's the odd different one. So the Gold Coast has always been a place where people go for a few days, but traditionally you go to a race, you run, you go home. And we thought, well, what a really, really good idea. And I said, when I say we, it's the royal we. Truthfully, it was Marimar's idea. I take as much credit as I can, but I do so little of the work. But so we went to Uluru on a break in 2004. And we went to Alice Springs. We did the Alice Springs race, which was great. Then we hired a car, drove down to Uluru, spent a few days there, and thought, wow, this is amazing. Why don't we see if we can put a race on here? Now, bear in mind, this is 2004.
Yeah.
So we started to, you do a little bit of paperwork, you get your little spreadsheets together, you start scribbling notes down. And when we started to look at it, we realized why nobody had done it before. It's a very remote location, very hard to get things to, and there's nothing really there. If you don't take it with you, you don't use it. So the idea didn't go away. It was a really, really good idea, and it remained a really, really good idea. So we kept chipping away at it, kept talking to different people. We talked to people at the resort. We talked to the traditional owners, obviously. We talked to the national parks. But it was one of those things, there was nobody outside of Marmar and myself. There was no real champion for the event. There was nobody there who really understood what a race was.
Yeah.
And then there was a change of leadership out at the resort itself. There was a guy called Bernie who became the overall general manager. And he wasn't a runner, but he was a cyclist. So he understood the concept of going away and doing something. So he almost became a bit of a champion. He helped us push it along, helped us get certain permissions. We talked to people in head office who came on board. And 6 years later, we turned up in 2010, put the first race on. So it was a 6 year, it was a very long gestation period for a race, but it was worth it. Yeah. So, but Marmar truthfully was the driver of that, not me. Yeah.
You're hoping she's listening to this, aren't you, Michael?
He will at some point, so I'll get a lot of brownie points, I hope. It's either that or I'll get into trouble for mentioning her name so many times. So.
No, she's a wonderful person. We love Marimar, so it's all good. So we know that this is not just a running event. When you get the runners to be there or even the supporters to be there, tell us about the start line. Tell us about what happens from the time to that you arrive and to the time that we finish.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we wanted to put a race on that wasn't a race that you just turn up to the race to do. So we thought to ourselves, because we were running, if I'm a runner and I go to a location, what do I want? I don't just want to run. I want a holiday. I'm going a long way to do this, so I want stuff. So what is the stuff that I want? So then we put our event management hats on and said, okay, what do we do? One of us runs, one of us event manages. Let's have a look at what we put together. So we said, well, okay, I want to get off the plane and I don't want to think about anything else for 4 days. I want it just done. I want an itinerary. I want to see the sights. I want really good food. I want to meet people. I want to do stuff. And I want to do a run that I'm never going to forget. So that was the driving force behind the idea, was to put something on that made you feel when you left that the run was just part of the experience. It's the hook that gets you in, but it's not the thing that you think about when you leave. So we started to design initially one itinerary. We now have 5 different itineraries that all roll together on the Friday and Saturday. So, I'll go through our longest itinerary if you will indulge me for a moment. So you get off a plane on the Thursday, for example, which is what most people do. We have a shakeout run on the Thursday, which basically gets your shoes dirty. It's the whole point of it. You get out there, you go for a 3K run. You get to meet people. We take you up to the top of one of the lookouts and you get these sweeping vistas of Uluru, and it sets the tone for the next 4 or 5 days. Then we do an outdoor, if you like, bush barbecue for 150 people. That's just saying welcome to everybody. On the Friday morning, everybody gets up early. We give everybody a backpack. We send you off to Uluru, as you mentioned earlier, guys. We do a full base walk, which is a hop on, hop off. So you get to go to Uluru. You get to see it as a tourist. We take you out to the cultural centre. So you get to see Mariku arts. You get to see Indigenous artists actually painting, which is amazing. I have some of their artwork myself. That's incredible to see people actually creating art as opposed to going to a gallery and seeing it on a wall. It's remarkable. Then we have, we have an opportunity to buy merchandise. Then we do at 5 o'clock, we do, so I'm laughing because I imagine myself doing it. We have a welcome ceremony. So we have some Indigenous dancers and singers that do a proper welcome to country, because obviously it's their country. They're going to do it way better than I can. Then we do a full safety briefing. And then we stand there and make fun of the runners for 15 minutes. So we tell stories about where they've come from and what they're doing. And we sing happy birthday to people. And we give special bibs out. We try and make it very personal. So if you've got somebody we always have people run on race day on their birthday. So if you're running on your birthday, for example, and you're 63, we'll give you number 63 to run in. We had a lady this year who's running her 300th marathon. Guess what number she ran in? Now, things like that. So we try and make that.
Number 10.
Yeah. So some people who get number 10. And there's always, we try and do that. So we make it personal. We tell little stories about people, which is good. We introduce the different running groups that have come. We introduce families. We have a little segment where we haven't done it the last couple of years, but we started again this year where we have 20 different nationalities other than Australian turn up this year. So we greet them, but in their language. So it's an excuse for my colleagues and I to completely butcher other people's languages. It sounds terrible, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So we count down all the numbers, things like that. Then we have a big pasta party in the evening. That's Friday. That's your first day. So that's a lot of fun. We get up very early. We have breakfast in a 5-star resort on race day. Then we bus everybody out to the race, and I'll go into the actual race itself in a bit more detail later, I'm sure. But then we have the whole race, and there's a few things that we do there that are quite special. And then in the evening, we all go to the pub and we dance and we have a drink. And as a management team, we get to celebrate you, which is totally awesome. On the Sunday morning, the Saturday evening, you can do a sunset tour. You can do camel rides. Sunday morning, you can do camel rides. We have tours that go out to Katajuta. We have a free stretch class. And then the Sunday night, we take you out into the middle of the desert. We wine you, we dine you, and then turn all the lights off and look at the Milky Way overhead, which is just stunning. So we have a big celebration dinner, which is a very private function. We have video, we have photos of all the runners of the day before that we show as a slideshow. We do a few speeches, have a bit of fun, and then some people go off to Kings Canyon on the Monday, and then everybody home on the Tuesday. So it's a pretty full itinerary, and I haven't even talked about the race.
It is an event, and it is an event of multiple activities, which we found we really liked, and it's full on, but it's a really good experience. So you mentioned the courses, and you mentioned about the runs. Let's talk about them. It is red sand running. Is it all red sand running all the way, or is it?
It is, predominantly you're running on different types of red earth trails. As I mentioned, we've changed the course over the last few years. We were talking to police last year, and we had some road crossings that we didn't like. We've never had an issue, I would point out, ever with a road crossing. We're very careful. We've had a lot of support over the years, but we didn't like the road crossings. So we've changed the course this year to effectively make it almost a 21-kilometer loop. And then we turn you around and you do that 21 kilometers backwards, which is amazing because it looks completely different. It's like you'd think it was a different course. But what that has meant is that we're now predominantly running on bush tracks rather than sealed roads. So there are a lot of graded sections, but there's some soft sand as well. There's some gravelly type tracks. So if you imagine you're out in the bush and there's no sealed road, we give you everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I guess the things that we remember, the race starts with the didgeridoo playing as the sun comes up over Uluru in the background.
We get everybody out there. Actually, we change things up every year just slightly. We get everybody out there by about 6:45 now. So where the race start is right next. I'm sure everybody's heard of the Field of Light, which is an amazing solar installation out at Uluru. We get everybody out there about 6:45, so you get to see the Field of Light in all its glory in the morning. These multicolored solar bulbs just sitting there in the dark. And about 7 o'clock, the false dawn, and you just get to see the light coming up over Uluru. And this huge, big, black, monolithic rock that starts to just slowly change color, which is incredible. Sunrise is about 7:30 or 7:28, if I'm guessing. 7:28 in about 4 seconds. Not that I time it, but still, one needs to know these things. And just before the sun comes up, we have a didgeridoo player who plays for about 5 or 10 minutes. There's a guy called Dwayne, and he's absolutely unbelievable. So you get this ethereal sound of a didgeridoo playing. There's no noise as the sun's coming up behind him over Uluru, and it's just it sends a shiver down my spine just thinking about it. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, me too. It's very much so. That didgeridoo is just something that's really clearly etched in my brain.
Yeah, and then about between 7:45 and 8 o'clock, depending on the light and depending on whether or not I've got my act together, we start the race. And we don't do it right on sunrise. People have asked us before why we don't do it for the heat. We actually do it because, as you can see behind me, we've got an amazing photograph of Uluru. We want everybody to have their photographs. So all photography and video is free at the race. It's all included. Everybody gets, if you're running the marathon, you get 50 or 60 photographs of yourself around the course. If we start too early, there's no light. So we want you to have the light for your photograph. So we start a little bit later. And then we have an 8-hour cutoff for the marathon, for the half marathon. We don't effectively have a cutoff for the 6 and the 11. You can take as long as you like for those. They start about 45 minutes later. So you've got 7 hours to do an 11-kilometer race. And off people go. And then we had a policy when we very first started. We wanted to make the Australian Outback Marathon very personal. So every single runner gets called over the line by name. If there is any story associated with that person, that gets said out loud. We jeer them up. Usually I stand there for 8 hours and scream, so I've usually lost my voice, to be honest, which is a blessing for everybody on the Sunday. So we try and make it very, very personal. So it's not often in a big race you get to hear your name. We try and call every single person, so everybody hears their name as they're crossing the finishing line, which we quite like. So we just roll through the day. We have we deal with the Ananu Communities Foundation, so they bring a barbecue now. Every year we have a big barbecue, which is a donation. So if you want to have something from the barbecue, you just take it. And then all we ask is you donate when you get back to the hotel. You don't have to. So it's absolutely free if you don't want to. So, that's there. We have hot and cold food. We have tea and coffee. We have food at the finishing line for everybody. We cater for everybody's dietary requirements if they've told us what they are. We just have a great time for 8 hours. We have a lot of AC/DC playing, as I'm sure you remember. We have a lot of Australian rock music playing all day long with a big speaker system. And it's a lot of fun.
And now I know that a lot of your work is also done with the local communities while you're out there as well, and a lot of support goes back to them. I know this year I've sent out a lot of running shoes with one of our friends who took a car out. I reckon that they probably took 4 million pairs of shoes. That
157 actually.
Wow. There you
go.
So that's fantastic, because that actually goes back to the local community and helps them as well. So a lot of what Australian Outback Marathon does actually supports all that local community, the schooling, the community health. It's not just about the running side of things. You're actually giving back to that community that is in that area as well. So that's a really good thing for you guys.
We do try to. We sponsor. It's not just us, I would bear in mind. There's a lot of credit goes to the Indigenous Land Corporation, who are the owners of the Ayers Rock Resort. They chip in a huge amount here as well. So we have 3 Indigenous schools. One's from Ernabella, one's from Ildulkana. I mispronounce that every time I say it. And Pipot Jarrah as well. We invite 20 kids and carers from each of those schools every year. So that's 60 kids and carers completely for free for the whole weekend. We pay for, or between us and the resort, we pay for everything. So we give them all a shirt and all of their race costs. They get accommodation, they get food, all of that stuff. So we have 60 Indigenous kids come every year. And on top of that, just because a few years ago we thought it was funny, we also take 50 race bibs to the local primary school, and every single kid from the local school gets to run for free if they want to.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, so the local school, we actually have a separate event now, which we call a kids marathon. So they do a little bit of training during the year. They do round and round and round of laps and whatever. So they all do a 6-kilometer race because they're only little. They're only, young kids. They do that, but we have a special bib made up for them, which is a kids marathon bib. They get a special ribbon, so they effectively have their own community event, and they all run that for free. So, yeah, and then we collect shoes and any clothes that are left out there, we donate, and we do what we can. It's never enough, but we do what we can.
Yeah. It's an amazing event. It's an amazing cause, and it's an amazing experience. And I might just reiterate, 2021 was only a negative because of the race.
Yes.
As you were reciting those 5 days, the amazing memories I had from 2021 was everything else except the hiccup I had in the race. So
you did a glorious ultra half though, Tony. That's the important thing.
I completed a 28K, and I think I was the only one that completed that 28K that year.
You had a race all on your. I should have made you a medal.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not just being called over the line, Michael. As you're coming down that finishing straight, as soon as you can pick up and identify who it is, you're walking them pretty much from half a K out. You're talking about.
We try to. We try to. We have a big PA system that's pointed basically at the runners. You can hear me. And I'm quite lucky because I'm in an announcer's tent, so the speakers are all facing outwards. So I don't hear quite how loud I am out on the course. I was told this year that I could be heard at the 3-kilometer drink station.
Oh wow! You probably could.
So it's not 3 kilometers. As the crow flies, obviously it's 3 kilometers you do a loop round, so it's about 1 kilometer as the crow flies, but apparently I could be heard.
So over the years, and the 2 years that Sharon and I went, we met some pretty inspirational people, and I heard when we had Murray Ma on the program as well on the show, she talked about the lady who could only run 1K at a time, and then she did her last kilometer at the Australian Outback Marathon.
She did.
What other inspirational stories really move you about people doing it?
There've been some incredible ones over the years. They really have. Now I'm going to not name too many names, mainly to protect my own memory rather than anybody else. But so the very first year, for example, we had a couple from Canada. Now we didn't know, but they came to the race as their honeymoon. So they did the whole race holding hands all the way around. We've had a couple who did the race together all the way around. They were absolutely lovely, but unbeknownst to us, they finished. They got straight on the shuttle bus, went back to resort, got changed, and got married. So that was pretty cool. We had I could go on like this all day. So I'll try not to. We had a 9-year-old young gentleman from New Zealand. Now, we don't normally allow people that young to run the longer races. We don't think it's safe for them. But he got medical clearance. He came over with one of his parents, gave us a doctor's certificate. He was actually making a documentary for New Zealand television about trying to encourage younger kids to exercise. So he came over and filmed himself doing a half marathon.
Wow.
Which was amazing. And it took him a while, but more power to him. That was absolutely amazing. We had my mother came over in 2019. My mum, I love my mother. She's quite a heavy smoker. She's never run more than about 4 steps in her life, and she managed to do a 6-kilometer race. It took her 4 hours
Wow.
But she did a 6K. She's never done an organized event before. We had the amazing Evelyn. Evelyn is 89 years old.
Wow.
She did her first ever 6-kilometer race last year. I think you guys may remember her coming over the line. That was 89 years old. She's never run a race before.
Yeah.
You know what? Her kids, older than we are. She came with the kids and came with the grandchildren. She thought, well, if they're doing a race, I'm going to do a race. So it was the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
So we have stories like that every year. There's always something every year that blows me away. We had a lady this year doing a half marathon. She'd never done a half marathon before, and it was her husband's birthday. So she thought, well, I'll do the half marathon. She's done some training. She felt really, really good. She's trundling along. She's not super quick, but she's trundling along. She's towards the back of the pack. She comes up against another lady who's really struggling. I mean, really struggling. She's, badly cramping. She's sitting down. She's not feeling well. So this particular, and I won't name names, but this particular individual just said, you know what? My race isn't about me doing my time. My race is about me finishing with this person. So she basically stopped, spent an extra hour out on the course, just helping somebody else through. It's that sort of camaraderie happens. We gave her an award, as it turns out.
That's beautiful.
There's the lady that you mentioned that Marimar talked about. It's a lady called Jo Penkin who had multiple sclerosis. We have 2 awards now we named after her. They're big glass trophies with her name on them. We have one for perseverance. We won for inspiration. This lady got the inspiration award because it was inspirational. What she did. It's not necessarily for a marathon runner. So the stories like that. I could keep going on all night, but we'll run out of time. Stories like that every single year of people just being people with other people. It's absolutely amazing, incredible.
And that's the best thing about the Outback Marathon. It's not like a normal big race where you've got that elitism or anything like that. Like Boston, everyone knows you have to qualify, you have to be this speed, or you go in through a traveling company like yourself or whatever. But there is no elitism with the Australian Outback Marathon. You can be a super fast runner and do it in really, really good time, or you can do it in 8 hours or even longer, and you will be treated exactly the same way and with as much respect as each other. And that's what we loved most about the Outback Marathon. Everyone is treated as an equal, and it's for everybody. It doesn't matter what speed you can run at or what age you are, or everyone can do it.
Yeah, I think going back to Marimar's concept of the event is to acknowledge right at the very beginning that if I'm doing a 6-kilometer race, that might be my marathon.
Yep.
Therefore, I should be treated like that's my marathon. So you get cheered just the same way as the marathon runner is coming over the line, because I've worked my butt off to get through 6 kilometers. I may never have done it before, and you deserve to be acknowledged for that. Everybody does. And not just at our race. Truthfully, at every race, everybody should be acknowledged. So, if I take nothing out of what we do, it's just I like to acknowledge people when they finish. I like people to feel special. Yeah.
You mentioned that you had a number of international. I think you said, was it 20 different countries this year?
Yeah.
So where do they roughly come from? What sort of countries are we talking about? Are they scattered everywhere around the world? Are they mainly New Zealand?
Much
local?
Yeah, we get a fair few of our brothers from across the water, brothers and sisters from across the water. Obviously, we always get a reasonable group of Americans come over. But truthfully, I think over the 13 years, we'd have had 100 different countries represented, I would think. I don't have the stats with me, but people come from everywhere. We have people from islands off the coast of Russia that I've never heard of, and they would tell me where it is, and I've still never heard of it. You tell me for a week where you come from, I've still got no idea where that is. We have people from Micronesia and from Polynesia, and they'll tell me the name of an island, and all I know is it's somewhere over there in the water. Just over there somewhere. No idea where they are. We've had people from Guam. We've had people from, everywhere you can think of, and all parts of everywhere that you can think of. So we, not so much the last couple of years for political reasons, not because of people reasons, but we normally have a big group of Chinese that come in. And a very good friend of ours called Stephen, who actually is out at Uluru, is Chinese. He runs a Chinese tour company out there. He looks after them every year, and they show me on a map where they come from. I have no idea what the names of these places, and they are the towns with 2 million people in them. And for us, it's like, going to a village. So there's people from. It's awesome because there's people from everywhere. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I noticed this year, and I'm going to encourage everyone listening or watching to make sure you go to the Travelling Fit Facebook page, because the drone shot of the start I found was just magical this year, Michael. So, and you do have a little bit of a story about that if you wanted to share that.
That was a really weird one this year. We have a team of audiovisual technicians that come from Darwin. And they come every year because obviously there is none of this equipment at Uluru. So everything that we have, we bring in a 5-ton truck. And these guys brought all their audio equipment down there. There's an amazing drone show now out at Uluru that you can see at night. So we're at the start line, and I'm chatting away to the guys that have done all the audio visual, and they do all the power for us, and they put up the speakers for the music and all that sort of stuff, which is great. And one of the guys, a guy called Simon, says, "Oh, by the way, I brought a drone." Now, we've never used drones before because the course used to go close to the airport. And we always thought you just don't want drones and planes anywhere near each other if you can possibly help it. So we've never had them before. He says, "Oh, would you like me to put the drone up and I can do a bit of footage and see what it looks like?" And I went, "Hey, that's a really good idea." Unbeknownst to me, he'd been up there for an hour already. Things whizzing around all over the place. You can see it, as Tony mentioned, you can see it on the footage where this drone's going over the start line in the dark. I had no idea it was there.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, well, why don't you have a look at this? I can get people to wave as I go over them." And obviously this guy's a professional drone pilot. So I'm assuming that's what drone people are called. Drone pilots. Yeah. I'll go with that anyway. He's a professional. So he's obviously very safe. He's got all of his licenses. He keeps a safe height and all of that sort of stuff. So he's got the drone going over. He's got runners waving. Then he's got the drone footage of people starting, and it pans back with Uluru in the background. And I'm looking at this footage live. And I'm going, "So where's the drone now?" "Oh, it's following the leader," he said. "They're about 2 kilometers down the road." And you can see it on the footage. It's just, it blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. So we just had to share it so other people got to see that. So it really gives you an amazing idea of what it's like out there when you run.
Yeah. So field of lights, the whole concept around the start, and it's magical. Now, just my final question before I throw it back to Tim. New course, does that mean there's a new course record? Or
there was a new course record. We a guy called Dom who ran it this year, we actually made a point of saying that when he came over the finishing line. Not only did he win this year, he set a new course record. So it's just 3 hours and 5 minutes he did this year.
Wow.
So
and a new PB for everyone returning.
Absolutely. Yeah, everybody got a record this year. It was.
Oh, we have to go back just to get a different piece. Yeah.
No, it was great. We had a lot of fun. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. We're just going to start to wrap it up. So the question I've got to ask now is, when is next year's event scheduled? When does registration open, and how do people register?
So in no particular order, the event's always the last Saturday in July, so it'll be the 27th of July next year. We're hoping to get registrations open sometime in September, which will be great. You can find information, all the information about the race and the course and the maps and whatever we've done is on the website, which is just www.australianoutbackmarathon.com. Or you can go to the Travelling Fit website, or of course you can give us a ring anytime. We're happy to talk about it.
Yep. And there's different levels of accommodation, which we should have mentioned earlier as well. So it's not all 5-star. You can actually stay in apartments or campgrounds as well, I think.
Yes, you can. Yeah, there's apartments. There's, as you say, there's a 5-star resort out there as well. There's 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. There's a slightly, I'm going to call it a lesser resort, which is the Desert Gardens. It's not a lesser anything. It's a really good resort. And there's also some more budget style accommodation at the Outback Pioneer as well. Yeah. Yes, 4 different races, 5 different courses, 2 massive monoliths, and an amazing weekend.
So I think our recommendation is go for the bigger package, the 5-day package, the platinum package, I think you call it, because you get everything.
We recommend to everybody, if you can, we have 5 packages. We have a platinum, a diamond, a gold, a silver, and a red earth package. We'd always say to people, do at least the gold. Make sure you're there on the Sunday night for the celebration dinner, because as you guys would know, truthfully, when you go home, the celebration dinner is what you remember, not just the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Michael. That was a trip down memory lane, I guess, for us three, but it was also hopefully very educational, informative, and inspirational for anyone that's out there listening. So I would recommend 100%, if it's on your bucket list, make sure you book early, because they do sell out. You do sell out. It is a much sought after event. And especially if you want to do the full package, or at least the gold, the Sunday celebration dinner is just amazing. And you until you experience it, you just don't. It's just the Milky Way is just phenomenal. So, don't be disappointed. Make sure you get in there and you book early. Now, it's been an amazing show, and I am going to throw, because this is one of the most sought after pieces of the show. Feedback's flying. It's what we know as Tim's funny. So over to you, Tim.
This is getting harder. I say this every week, but I hate. I'm hating this. But I'm hating the fact that I suggested we do a funny at the end of the episode. But anyway, hey Tara. You know, when we were going out earlier on and we said we're friends with benefits, I always thought you meant you owned a running store. A running store.
I don't own a running store, and so sorry.
Must have been other benefits then.
There's none of those benefits either.
One of my mates listens to the show, and he sent me through a funny this afternoon, just in case. So, and it's a meme of Dean Martin from the way back, and he says, "I hate it when people say you don't need alcohol to have fun. You don't need running shoes to run, but it kind of helps."
It's like that age-old no good story started with a salad or something like that.
All right. On that note, what's coming up next week, Tara?
All right. Well, thanks for that, Tim. Next week, we're going to talk about running through the rut. As we all know, going through that long run perspective, how do we stay motivated? How do we get up in the morning? Why do we get up in the morning? It's really hard when you get to that 8-week into your training run to keep yourself motivated when you've still got another 6 to 7 weeks of marathon training to go. So we're going to share some of our tips and tricks. They might not work for you guys, but we hope they do, because we've done a few marathons now to know what works for us anyway. So yeah, we'll share all those tips and tricks with you guys next week.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Tara. I promise you that episode won't put you in a rut.
That's a bad funny.
Anyway, we've now concluded the 6th episode of the Flying RuNR. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe wherever you listened or watched this episode. Video of this episode will be available on Spotify and YouTube, and audio will be available on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and most other popular podcast platforms. Remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on the next episode. But one thing before we finish up, thank you very much, Michael, for joining us tonight on this episode. And we look forward to seeing you on our tours as we go forward into the future.
Absolute pleasure, guys. Anytime. I could talk about the Australian Outback Marathon all day long, but it's more fun talking about it with you guys.
Thank you very much.
Michael.
Until next time, happy running, everyone.
Happy running.
Happy running.